There are a million reasons Fallout shouldn't work. For starters, it's a video game adaptation, and those almost never work. It's an over-the-top satire of capitalism and the fantasy of the American West, a subgenre with a pretty shabby success rate on the small screen. It ricochets between a dizzying array of reference points and emotional tones every episode. It treats violence both as a hideous moral blight and totally awesome. It shouldn't work, but it does. Adapted by Geneva Robertson Dworet and Graham Wagner from games created by Tim Kaine, Leonard Boyarsky, Josh Sawyer, and others, Fallout is a spectacularly savage send-up of megalomaniacal technocrats, billionaire psychopaths, and American fascists. Starring several of the most telegenic actors working today, it's stupid like a fox, smarter than it needs to be, and so nasty I'm surprised they can get away with it. Walton Goggins and Ella Purnell absolutely nail their roles as the Ghoul and Lucy McLean, the most and least idealistic people in the American wasteland. The show takes place in this twisted alternate future where a nuclear war was launched against America's own citizens by capitalist overlords. It's set in a world where the richest people are dangerous lunatics whose greed has killed millions. Good thing it's all fiction, right? So here's the backstory. In the years before nuclear Armageddon, Cooper Howard, that's Goggins, was a cowboy movie star who sold post-apocalyptic bunker vaults to the public with a big smile. He was asked by Williams, a wealthy scientist turned anti-fascist, to spy on his own wife, Barb. She was a high-ranking executive at the Vault-Tec Corporation. What Cooper discovered was absolutely horrifying. Barb and her billionaire friends were planning to detonate the bombs themselves to gain total control over the vault survivors, who they intended to use as test subjects. A few centuries later, Cooper is now an undead gunslinger without a nose who has the most cynical view of humanity you can imagine. He's searching the wasteland for his wife and daughter, who he believes are still alive. And yeah, many people on this planet live for hundreds of years. It's just how it works here. Lucy, on the other hand, was raised as one of those test subjects. She had this perfect all-American life in Vault 33 until her father, Hank, was kidnapped during a raid by Williams, who's somehow still alive and now goes by Lee Moldover, the Flame Mother. Lucy ventures to the surface world to save her father, and that's when she first encounters the Ghoul. But then Lucy discovers the truth. Her father actually works for Vault-Tec. He was preserved in cryo-sleep and thawed out to lead the Vaulters into this glorious hyper-capitalist future. He's such a fanatic that he was willing to drop a nuclear bomb on Lucy's mother's underground colony just to make sure his way of life was the only one that survived. Now Lucy's trying to stop him before he kills again. Spoiler alert, she's too late. The Ghoul also knows Hank. He used to work with Cooper's wife, and Cooper thinks Hank has the best information about where she is now. Even though Lucy is still so compassionate that she constantly gets them into trouble that only the Ghoul can shoot their way out of, their relationship has evolved from hostile to surprisingly beneficial. Together, they follow Hank's trail of destruction to an abandoned vault filled with the bodies of Americans who were brainwashed into communism through painful neck implants that eventually cause full-blown scanner-style head explosions. This vault was created by a pre-war billionaire inventor named Robert House, played by Justin Theroux, with the sleaziest mustache you've ever seen. He's known as the richest man in America. In one of the episode's many scenes of extreme violence, we see him using these implants directly against some blue-collar attackers. The Ghoul explains that House is the guy whose secret defenses stopped the nuclear bombs from hitting Las Vegas, which is why it was still standing at the end of Season 1, and why it's Hank's final destination. House is also responsible, along with the other plutocratic leaders, for the original nuclear launch. He seems to be the mysterious Sir that Hank keeps sending messages to when Hank reopens Vault-Tec's underground headquarters and starts perfecting those controller chips. In fact, Cooper's storyline this episode ends with Williams/Moldaver begging him to play dumb with his wife and use his Hollywood charm to kill House instead of spying on him. She warns that now that House has her cold fusion technology and can generate unlimited energy forever, nothing will stop him from pushing the button. unless Cooper pulls the trigger first. Obviously, that plan didn't work out. We also find out what some of Lucy's former vault mates are up to, even though we don't see Maximus, our knight in shining armor, this episode. Betty, Vault 33's overseer and one of Hank's accomplices, encourages Reg to channel his guilt and worthlessness into therapy. Unfortunately, most people who show up to his poorly attended inbreeding support group think it's promoting inbreeding and immediately leave. Meanwhile, Stephanie, the eye patch-wearing overseer of Vault 32, has basically married and impregnated Chet, Lucy's cousin and former romantic interest, without his consent. But the closest thing this show has to a pure hero is Lucy's younger brother, Norm. He's been imprisoned in Vault 31 by Bud Askins, the company's visionary leader. Vault 31 is the secret home of the cryopods where Hank, Betty, and their fellow Vault-Tec cultists sleep while waiting for Reclamation Day. And because this is Fallout, Bud is now a brain in a jar with a poison syringe for an arm. Bud assumes that without food or water in the sealed vault, Norm will either lock himself safely in his father's empty cryopod or be forced to submit to death by Bud's needle arm. What Bud doesn't expect is that Norm chooses violence. He walks up to the brain in a jar, kicks the needle off his appendage, and thaws out every single Vault-Tec employee at once. Now something's definitely going to have to give. Director Frederick E.O. Toy, working from a script by showrunners Wagner and Robertson Dworet, seems to have toned down the excessive teal and orange color grading that was really my only complaint about Season 1. Everything else is still here. The incredible leads, the stunning visual effects and character designs, the perfectly crafted post-apocalyptic buildings and desert landscapes, the waist-deep gore, the disgust with capitalism and hatred of billionaires, and the wildly successful comedy. The only real question mark is how this season will handle Maximus. He's a funny but very subdued character compared to Goggins' legendary Ghoul and Purnell's energetic Lucy. Even composer Ramin Djawadi's music gets more somber when he's on screen. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there, and someone on the show will probably try to blow it up. For now, Fallout is back in all its gory glory, and its message feels more relevant than ever. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more.